Yeah, ready to dive in something a little different. We're looking at a church sermon today. It's by Pastor Johnson from Bethesda Baptist Church in Austell, Georgia.
Okay.
Now, you might be thinking, what does the sermon have to do with me? But trust me, this one has some really practical advice on handling negativity and tough situations, things I think we all deal with.
Yeah, I think what's really fascinating about this sermon is how Pastor Johnson takes something like spiritual warfare and makes it relevant to our everyday lives. Like he's really talking about the battles we all face, not with like swords and shields, but with negativity, self-doubt, those voices that try to bring us down.
Right, and he uses this idea of weapons as a metaphor
Hmm.
for all the things that can throw us off course, like criticisms, setbacks,
Yeah.
even just those days where everything seems to go wrong.
Hmm.
And he says that sometimes the most powerful response to these weapons is no response at all.
Right, and that's where the Home Depot story comes in. I think that anecdote really brings that idea to life. Pastor Johnson finds himself in a situation where he is tempted to react to a racist remark, but his wife steps in
Hmm.
and kind of prevents things from escalating.
Exactly. It would have been so easy for him to get drawn into a confrontation. But he chooses to walk away. And later he realizes that his wife's intervention might have even saved him from serious trouble.
Yeah, it's a great example of how choosing not to engage can actually be a form of strength and self-control. And Pastor Johnson calls it temperance. And he really argues that it's essential for navigating conflict and avoiding unnecessary drama.
It makes you think, right? Like, how often do we just react impulsively to things that, in the grand scheme of things don't really matter? Maybe letting some things go is actually a sign of wisdom, not weakness.
That's a great point. It's about choosing your battles carefully and recognizing that sometimes not responding is the most powerful and effective course of action.
And Pastor Johnson doesn't just tell us to ignore negativity. He actually gives us some tools for dealing with it. He talks about building up what he calls spiritual armor, which we can kind of think of as inner strength. He uses metaphors from the Bible, but I think the ideas are pretty universal.
Yeah. He talks about things like prayer, which, we can think of as taking time for reflection.